9 o'clock. Thank you and welcome to this session. Soon we will share a bit of material. Let me first introduce myself very briefly. My name is Sergio. I'm a HR consultant based in London, and my work experience range from several sectors, especially public procurement sector and manufacturing sector. Let's go straightforward through these very interesting topics of today, and I will share with you the material we have prepared. Just 1 second. Okay, here we go. I hope you all can see the material on your video. Can you give me a quick confirmation of that, please?
Yes, we can.
Oh, perfect, perfect. Excellent. So we have a cycle of 3 classes regarding one of the, I think, most exciting topic related to human resource management, which is strategic human resource management. So let's break this down. And we have 3 classes, one today, one on Wednesday, the 24th, and one on Friday, the 26th. In the session of today's section, we will discuss about the role of strategic management of human resources, understand human resource planning or workforce planning. We will refer to human resource planning as workforce planning in this session. And the other topic will be treated during the next session on the 24th and 26th. In today's section, we split the topic 1 and topic 2, namely the role of strategic management of human resources and human resource planning. And the session will be arranged as following. We will have roughly 40 minutes of discussion about understanding the role of strategic management. So generic discussion on this topic and understanding the facets of this topic. Then we will have a Q&A session, 10 minutes to talk about your thoughts, clarification, and whatever you would like to ask or discuss about the topic, and a break of 10 minutes following the second session, in which we will talk about human resource planning and understand human resource planning in an organization. These sessions will provide with a Q&A and a brief description of the assignment. So the topic 1, the role of strategic management of human resource. During this 40 minutes, we will discuss about the nature of the importance of strategic management, human resource management, the role and its purpose, and relationship between strategic human resource management and other functional areas. It would be important to discuss of the evolution of human resource management and the definition. So I would like to start with you, start this session with a kind of a provocative approach. I would like you to reflect on some criticism, since I believe that this topic, in order to be mastered and understood, it requires to understand the basic and the differences between human resource management and human resource strategy and strategic human resource management. there is a bit of criticism about human resource management, and I believe that this criticism is a strong source that prompts us as a human resource manager, and you as a future or current human resource manager, to review our approach and to interpret human resource management in light of the current trends, economic phenomena, and expectation of our stakeholders. So I would like to start with some criticism about human resource management from authoritative sources, very important sources like LSBR. I think you went across probably article on Harvard Business Review of this guy, Boone, guest. They gave definition of human resource and human resource management quite controversial, for instance, as an optimistic but ambiguous label, says guests. And LSBR even said that is a macho management dressed up by benevolent paternalism. Someone else argued that the encompassing a new area within the human resource management, like human capital management and HR analytics, a strong current trend in HR. Essentially, even increased the ambiguity of the management function. Someone else stated that is an over-complex and backward complex concept in today's fast-moving business landscape. Continuing our thought-provocative reflection on human resource management, I would like you kindly watch this video about a current very famous and successful company based in the UK. Is an energy provider, which, if I'm not wrong, deliver essentially energy deriving from almost totally green, renewable sources. And this article and this video, it appears on BBC. Sorry. And this guy, which is the CEO, the founder and the CEO of a very famous and successful company, he states that his company has no HR department whatsoever. So this is to us something that I think invites us to a reflection. I will try to share this screen with you. Here we go. Let's see, and let's listen Greg Jackson and what he says about his employees.
The question we asked ourselves was, are companies with big HR departments, full of happier people, are they more productive? And well, the answer is usually no. Job adverts always say we're looking for creative people who can take responsibility, who've got passion for customers, all that stuff. And yet when people start working for a company, the first thing the company does is drown them in processes and bureaucracy. And now, actually, if you're going to go around recruiting smart people who are talented and motivated and really want to make a difference for customers, the most important thing a company can do is free them up to deliver that stuff that, is magic about humans. If you spend all of your time at work, whenever there's something difficult, handing it on to another function rather than learning to do it yourself, it's less fulfilling for you, but it also means the company's getting less out of you. How can a company learn how to find better and better ways of dealing with things if it takes all of the intelligence of its people and diverts them from those big problems?
Okay, here we go. So I would like to I would like to listen later during the session. What do you think about that? It's quite provocative for us who study and work in HR, knowing that currently successful company like Octopus, they are able to deliver their services even without human resource department whatsoever. I will tell you something very quickly about my feeling regarding Greg Jackson, which I do credit for his success. But I frankly think that he was able to formally remove the human resource department from the organization. But he cannot, and nobody cannot remove human resource practice within the organization, despite the formal presence of a human resource department. The way he treats employees, the way he arranged the office space and the desks, everything is human resource management. And everyone and someone else, he'll be spend their time in order to carry out human resource practice. So despite there is no human resource management department. But I think that this criticism and those read before, they are very important because we may not agree with them, like I'm not, frankly, but we cannot ignore them because they help us to interpret human resource management under the lens of the current trend and the expectation of our stakeholders. So let's go through what I believe is of fundamental importance in order to frame today's topic, strategic human resource management. And therefore, we will define the difference between human resource management, SHRM, and human resource strategy and strategic human resource management. They are three different things. Let's make this as simple as possible. What's human resource management? How people are employed, managed, and deployed in organization. That's all. This is what human resource management does in an organization. Big misconceptions about human resource management probably derive from the wrong contextualization of human resource management and its scope and its contextualization within a business. So if we are able to correctly identify and define the parameter of human resource management within the organization, the definition and the understanding of what strategic human resource management is will be much, much easier. Boxer and Purcell says that the process through which management builds the workforce and tries to create the human performances that the organization needs and desires, I would add. In order to contextualize the human resource management scope and purpose within an organization, I believe that Michael Porter's delivered the most simple and powerful clarification in identifying and define what the value chain activity are within a business and how human resource management is contextualized within these activities. Michael Porter suggests us to divide the value chain activity, which are the activity that add value to an organization, in two categories: value chain primary activities and value chain support activities. As we can see, human resource management is classified within the value chain support activities, which means that our activity, our scope, is to support the primary activities within an organization. There is no overlapping. There is no competition. Sometimes people and the human resource management scope is kind of either underestimated, either overestimated. So the correct allocation of the human resource management scope is very important. It is a supportive activity within the business value chain. Human resource management is a kind of turning point, which means at some point, human resource management, it emerged as a understanding of human resource able to lead to competitive advantage or competitive edge. This is back in the day, decades ago. And it turned out that human resource management decisions are of strategic sensitivity importance for the organization. Now, what is the difference between strategic human resource management and human resource management as a human resource strategy? Sorry. Is human resource management always strategic? This is the question we need to ask ourselves. Are HR strategy and strategic human resource management synonymous? As we'll see, this is no like that. Strategic human resource management is the coordinated mean. Strategic human resource management relate to company strategy. So in order to understand the strategic, what is strategic human resource management, we need to understand what is a strategy and what is strategic management within an organization. Therefore, let's define what is a strategy. A strategy is the coordinated means whereby an organization pursues its goals and objectives. Strategic management is nothing else than the process by which a firm manages the formulation and implementation of its strategy. So, human resource management, how our functions are connected with the strategy and the strategic management of this organization. I believe the simplest and more effective definition of what strategic human resource management stands for and is given by Boxall. Given the fact that we have a primary activity, we have primary activities and support activity for which human resource management is part of. And given the fact that a company has got a strategy to formulate it and implement it to pursue its goals and objectives. Strategic human resource management is the interface between human resource management and strategic management. This is the simplest and probably clearest definition of strategic human resource management. The interface is the translation at human capital level of the business strategy. Wright and McMahon define this: the pattern of planned human resource deployments and activities intended to enable an organization to achieve its goals. So this bit, I would like to underscore this definition, because this helps us to dive into the core of human resource management. And this important question that I would like you to ask yourself in order to cement your understanding of strategic human resource management, which is human resource management always strategic? The answer is not. Let's see what these authoritative authors suggest. Human resource management can be considered strategic whether it enables an organization to achieve its goals. And this is the point, this is the difference, this is the phases that we have to identify in order to understand if we are talking about strategic human resource management or simply human resource management. An organization that developed a HR strategy will not by default automatically practicing strategic human resource management unless this strategy, the human resource strategy, is relevant to the attainment of the purpose of the organization. At that point, the strategic human resource management, it emerges. Therefore, in order to clarify even more what strategic human resource management is, we can frame this concept as an overarching concept that link the management and development of people within the organization to the business as a whole. While human resource management is an organizing activity that takes place under the umbrella of strategic human resource management and encompass the wide range of human resource management functions. The understanding, which is our main purpose today, of strategic human resource management is it requires an understanding of the evolution of the strategic human resource management to reach what is the today's frontier of strategic human resource management. And this will also help us to introduce some human resource management models among the most widespread and successful ones. As we saw, there is a controversy on the aims and the impact within the organization. The evolution of the strategic human resource management, we are talking about a concept probably in the UK introduced it more than between 30 and 40 years ago. The evolution of the strategic human resource management unfolds from the concept of vertical alignment between human resource strategy and business strategy to what is today considered as a multi-stakeholder approach, encompassing the long-lasting debate between best fit and best practices. What does it mean? This evolution starts from the consideration that in the early and even before 80s, strategic human resource management should fulfill the implementation of the business strategy through a vertical integration of it within the strategy. So it was a following activity. This vertical integration also gave rise to a human resource management model currently appreciated and used as a reference, like the Michigan model of human resource management, also known as the matching model, because of the integration, alignment between human resource management and business strategy. And these models, of which the Harvard model that we will discuss briefly later is part of, suggests that human resource management systems and organization structure should be congruent with organizational strategy. And the concept of vertical fit is today at the core of strategic human resource management field. Soon after, the step of the evolution of strategic human resource management suggested that not only the strategic human resource management nature must be aligned vertically with the organization, but in order to be effective, should also highlight horizontal fit. So they were identified two dimensions, one external dimension and one internal dimension to which the human resource management activities relate. And the external dimension is the alignment of the strategic human resource management to the business strategy. The horizontal internal dimension is the consistency of human resource management activity each other. From this perceptions, which is vertical integration and horizontal fit, the let's say eternal discussion and debate between best fit and best practice stems. Essentially, this debate is today still at the core of strategic human resource management. And what this debate relates to. The evolution of human resource management and the first step in the definition of this concept highlighted, intrinsically highlighted one thing, which is that vertical integration and horizontal fit suggests that human resource management must show the best fit with the organization. And this relates to contingency theory and situational judgment, essentially. But over the time, the concept of best practice started to get popularity among the human resource management field practitioners and academics. What the best practice and what the best practice suggests? The best practice support the existence of a set of human resource management practices universally valid that represent by themselves the best option in any situation. And this regardless size of company, organization, regardless everything, regardless sector, industry, country. This approach, as you can see, is kind of totally, it creates a dichotomy with the best fit approach that instead suggests a vertical integration or horizontal fit, highlighting the uniqueness of any human resource management model within the organization. So this debate is still in place, and what are today's consideration are regarding this debate. Authors like Capelli, very important authors as well. You will find it on many Harvard Business Review articles. They suggest a third point of view regarding this debate. What they suggest is that rather than being two alternative approaches, best fit versus best practice, why don't we see them as in a more realistic and less extreme point of view, which means that they can complete each other. And authors, they suggest that in organization, essentially, a study highlighted that what works well in one organization will not necessarily work well in the other organization. This is because of contingency and contextual factors, and this is proven by study. But there is a truth regarding the best practice approach, which is best practice are statistically proven to be effective. Therefore, what may be a good interpretation of strategic human resource management in order to define this long-lasting conflict is to take the best of both the approaches and using best practice as a reference and as a basis upon which building the best fit. Following interpretation of the strategic human resource management approach suggested the resource-based approach, the human capital perspective, the behavioral perspective, and lastly today the analytical approach to strategic human resource management. This evolution, let's underscore once again. This evolution is important to understand what strategic human resource management stands for and its relation with business strategy and the business as a whole. Since the countless and human resource management models that you will meet throughout your human resource management activities during your studies. You will listen, you will hear about the human resource management model continuously, Ulrich model, Harvard model. So what this model, where does this model come from? This model comes from this evolution of human resource, strategic human resource management and this approach. The vertical and horizontal integration, the conflict between best fit and best practice, the resource-based approach, the human capital perspective, the behavioral perspective, the analytical approach to strategic human resource management. All these models relate in a way or in another in one or more of these approaches that underline the strategic human resource management. Subsequently, the vertical integration and horizontal fit. The resource-based approach suggested that is a view that underscore that a range of resources within organization represent the uniqueness of the organization in order to create competitive advantage. And is the resource-based approach, which is also kind of related with strategic management at the business level, is a inside-looking perspective. So this approach, the resource-based approach, suggests you, when you are about to define your strategic human resource management activity, look at inside the organization. Look about the exploitation of the existing resources and development of the new one. This is because, as in human resource management, I can say also from my modest experience, in many cases, you will witness this phenomenon. Splendid, excellent human resource management plans, idea, strategy, but terrible execution of them and failures because there are known existing resources and potential resources were overlooked in formulating the human resource strategy. So this perspective, the resource-based approach, is something that we will always take with us when we are about to define our strategic human resource management approach and human resource management initiatives. The human capital perspective is also kind of related to the resource-based approach. And this view also highlight the uniqueness and the unique nature of human capital resource within the organization. This theory essentially stresses that human resources are different from any other kind of resources and expresses the potential can be transferred to an organization to another, from an organization to another. So when you take in consideration the human capital perspective, in translating this in practical activity in human resource management, this suggests that your talent attraction activity and the development of these resources and the retention of these resources, so prevent that these resources get lost, which resources that represent the human capital of the organization, are all activity to take into consideration, because this perspective of strategic human resource management stress on the human capital assets represented by human resource and uniqueness. The behavioral perspective, I put the behavioral perspective here, despite the behavioral perspective is something that should go a bit earlier, since I believe probably started to be spread on in the 80s probably. And this is an approach which strongly relates with systems and culture within the organization, once again related to strategic management. This perspective suggests that different strategy types require different types of employee role behavior. So if we want to achieve a given performance, we have to push the alignment of the behavior of people toward this performance. The analytical approach to strategic human resource management instead, this concept is mirrors essentially the current economic strength and the rule of data. Today, information and data drive the economy. So in this sense, the strategic human resource management is reflecting today this today's trend. And he prompts us to the embracement of concepts like human resource analytics that I invite you to stress, to gain insight of this topic, which is today's very recurrent and fundamental topic in human resource management. Anyway, in a synthesis of what we said earlier, the combination is often the best solution. So this is about best practice and best fit. Regarding instead the human resource management model and the approach of strategic human resource management mirroring the need of evidence-based and analytics, these are three blocks to take in consideration in current strategic human resource management, which is evidence-based human resource management, SHRM, human resource analytics. So making use of information obtained from people data and based information on and this information should inform the strategic decisions and support the human resource management initiative. Human resource, the hardware and software framework that outline the configuration of current human resource management activities, and human resource analytics. This is kind of today a bit of taboo since analytics is about making predictions and is the synthesis of qualitative and quantitative data information to bring predictive insight. Companies today are eager to get analytics content out of HR activities. They want to know how this will where this will bring to. They want to know what the return on investment and on asset. As said earlier, from those perspectives of an evolution of human resource, strategic human resource management, many models derived. You will hear about AMO model and Harvard model. Especially the Harvard model is, I think, probably one of the most the model that mainly influenced many human resource management practitioners. And today this model is coming back in terms of relevance. Because as you can see from the previous description, the strategic human resource management highlight a an evolution, which is the abandon of the focus on simply on organizational performance toward the human capital and the human assets and human value within the organization. And this is the key. This is the key concept that today we want to highlight. Coming back to these two examples of model, the AMO model, which was created by Boxall and Purcell in 2003, this refers to the behavioral perspective. And according to this human resource management model, three important factors are the determinant of organizational performance, which is A, the ability to perform. What knowledge, skill, and aptitudes our employees got. The motivation, M stands for motivation to perform. Are they motivated? They may be motivated in many ways because they are scared of losing their job, which we hope it will be your tool in motivating people. And because they love their job, because they are recognized, because they get a fulfilling reward, intrinsic or extrinsic. And the third substantial elements of that link human resource management to organizational performance is the opportunity to perform. Does the work arrangement is suitable in order to provide the employee the support to carry out their tasks? Regarding the urban model, this is considered by far probably one of the most influential models of human resource management. And this stresses the view of employees as resources, and it recalls recalling the stakeholder theory principles and the alignment of human resource management practice and policy with business needs. So according to this model, the rule of the 4 C's derive, which is commitment of the employees, competence of the employees, congruence of employees' goal and organizational goals. This is the alignment. This is the alignment of performance of people with business needs and goals, and cost effectiveness of human resource management initiatives. So in embracing, in adopting the Harvard model or Harvard map, also known as a Harvard map, what we will do is working on human resource management policies related to these 4 areas highlighted by the 4 C's. Time is going fast. I hope you allow me a few minutes or more due to the delay. But anyway, I'll try to cut this short. Therefore, one of the key point of key aspect of strategic human resource management, also asked from your program, your model, is to understand what's the impact of strategic human resource management on organizational performance and what are the issues. Okay, now there is something important to mention, which is the famous so-called in human resource management black box. The black box is probably one of the biggest challenge you will deal with in your future career in human resource management, which is the difficulty of, at least today, up to today, of linking with number the human resource management initiatives and the organizational performance improvement. There are people like Guest, 2011, we are not talking about many years ago, is the last decade, that suggests, who suggests that after hundreds of research studies, we are still in no position to assert why, with any confidence, that good human resource management has an impact on organizational performance. This is kind of radical, I suggest, because there are many studies that show the opposite. But this, once again, recalls the relevance of the black box concept within human resource management practice, which is we know what's before, we know what is after, we don't know what happened inside. And the difficulty of linking human resource management practice to the so-called return on investment. So this will be your challenge. And today, organizations are pushing human resource department to prove how the activity, rather than representing increase of bureaucracy and work positions, is something that concretely the organization benefits in terms of performance. All the discussion about the strategic human resource management evolution led us to a sort of final conclusion of strategic human resource management current interpretation, and what the expectation of our stakeholders are in terms of approach in strategic human resource management. Recalling the Harvard model, today's strategic human resource management approach is a multi-layered approach based on long-term needs of all relevant stakeholders. This is what we should remind, and we should take into consideration, is this evolution and the detachment from organizational performance and solo stakeholder approach and interest to a multi-stakeholders interest approach in defined your strategic human resource management. We will see this concept applied in the next hour in talking about human resource planning or workplace planning. You will see how important is this concept, which is an approach that keep distance from focusing simply on organizational needs and performance in order to fulfill interests of a wide range of stakeholders to be effective. Stakeholders are our environment, employees, press, community, stakeholders may be countless. So it is important to understand who our key stakeholders are and addressing our stakeholders, our strategic human resource management in order to fulfill the expectation, and not only the expectation of company performance, because this will not pay off in the long term. I would say let's take a few minutes break. I think we are on time. If you agree, but before some Q&A. If you have some questions, sorry, let me go back to this, and I will stop share this video. Can you see me?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Thank you very much. Olusola, I hope to not misspell any name, but I ask you for your forgiveness if I do so. Shreya, Sherin, and Yasser. Have you got some? Kelvin, hello, welcome, and good to see you again. Have you got question about the concept treated so far is the I know they are no quite linear concept and it is quite challenging to acquire them and to especially to translate them in human resource management activities. We will see how to do so, especially in the second part of our session. And I hope that you are enjoying this session like me, and I hope to share with you kind of experience, some knowledge, and also to gain from you experience and knowledge. That's why this Q&A session and your thoughts are extremely important to me. So if there's something you want to gain some insight or discuss about what we talked so far, please feel free to post your question or intervene verbally. Feel free to do so. And if you don't have any question, we may simply take a few minute break, 10-minute breaks, and join together later after 10 minutes to discuss.
Yeah.
Yes.
My question is, you spoke about HR analysis, the importance of, strategic human resource management. So in terms of how does human resource analysis inform the overall corporate strategy for the organization?
Okay, yes, sir. So I assume you're talking about analysis, or let me clarify, analysis or analytics, or both?
Or both, yeah. Are they used interchangeably, analytics or analysis? Or...
Let's say that an analysis is part of analytics, and rather than how this inform the strategy, how these relate with strategy, and how analysis and analytics are tools in order to translate the business strategy or corporate strategy in a human resource management practices. So yes, this is at basis of today's interpretation of human resource management, the evidence-based approach. So the analysis and analytics are of utmost relevance in order to base our and inform our decision making and make our decision making reliable, making our decision making effective and appreciated by the board, because they want to know, they want to see number, they want to see not what, but so what. And in order to give this answer, we have to base every initiative on data, on data that may be not only quantitative data, but also qualitative data. The important thing is that every human resource management activity, starting from the formulation of the strategy to the implementation of the identified activity, is based on data, the analysis, and what they suggest in a rational way. Of course, the use of data and analytics may depend, and availability of data, especially availability and access to data, may strongly depend on the resource available within organization. Amazon is based on data, but a small medium enterprise that just recently started to embrace this approach in a more structured approach in human resource management may lack of data, and at that point we have to build databases. We have to we don't have the advantage of available data. So anyway, in any case, Yasser, you touched, I think, the crucial point in human resource management, strategic human resource management and human resource management initiatives, which is making use of available data. And if data are not available, gain it. I hope I gave you a comprehensive answer. And anyway, feel free to contact me also on LinkedIn or email. I will share my LinkedIn profile later in order to discuss about everything you want related to human resource management and strategic human resource management. If you want to, I also have kind of material about human resource analytics, so I'll be happy to share it with you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're most welcome. So guys, do you agree if we take a 10-minute break, or you can suggest a different time frame?
I just had a question. So should I continue after the break or before the break?
Let's do it now. Let's do it now, Shiria.
Oh, okay. So I just wanted to ask, what is the difference between value chain primary activities and value chain support activities? And by any which means they are interlinked or connected or something of that sort?
Okay. That's a very good question. Also, because as I mentioned earlier, if we correctly frame the contextualization of human resource management activity within a business as a whole, we are, let's say, 1,000 steps ahead in understanding and interpreting with effectiveness our human resource management activities. The difference in human resource, I think in this context, in the context of, we are not talking about strategic management now. We are talking about human resource management and strategic human resource management. So I think it's relevant rather than say what is the difference between primary activity of the business value chain and support activities of the business value chain. Let's say what is not. Support activities of the business value chain are not less important of primary activities of the business value chain. So I think this is the concept we have to take with us in order to not to frame human resource management as something like Greg Jackson says, that can simply disappear from your organization. And what I said before about the Jackson's approach, which I do credit for his strong success, and I wish the best of luck to his company, is that you can remove human resources. So there is evidence of what Michael Porter says about identifying what the value chain activities are within an organization. And the evidence that human resource management is an activity of the business value chain is that you cannot remove human resource management from a business. You may reconfigure the business value chain. For instance, you can even decide to outsourcing completely the human resource function, but you cannot remove the human resource management because, as I told you, let's give an example, very, very simple example. The way you paint your wall, the way you welcome the work position of an employee, everything is human resource management, the payroll. So you can't simply remove human resource management activity from the business value chain. You can reconfigure it. And the important thing, Shreya, is to remind that the fact that value chain activity is primary rather than supportive, it doesn't mean that one is more important than another. Of course, they give a different contribution, but they all together allow the business seen as in a holistic dimension to produce value and to pursue competitive advantage. So,
yeah, which means that they both are interlinked, is what you want to say, like.
Yeah.
Like without the either of the one, the business cannot run like as we want it to run.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Did you have another question? Or I don't know if we had discussed. If my answer is satisfying your question or not.
Yes. Yes. My doubts have been clear. Thanks a lot.
Oh, thank you. You are the most welcome. Thank you, Shreya. Thank you. Very, very interesting question, and fundamental question to the identification and interpretation of what human resource management activity stand for within an organization, which is something often overlooked. And creating an escalation of misconceptions and misunderstanding if we don't frame exactly what human resource management stands for, especially for students. I remember in my master in human resource management as well, this happened many times. Given for granted that some basic concept on human resource management are understood and acquired from people, creates difficulty in adding detail and specific context, specific context on top of a misunderstood basis. So I would insist saying that understanding the contextualization of human resource management within an organization is fundamental in order to then understand what strategic human resource management stands for, remembering that is the interface between the company strategy and the translation at human resource management level of this strategy in order to be accomplished, in order to pursue the identified goals. Thank you again for your questions. And is there any other question? Can we go for a little break if you agree? Now is, what time is it? 10:10. So maybe, I don't know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. What do you propose?
5 minutes.
Okay, yes, perfect. I do agree. Do you agree?
Yes.
Okay, well done. So let's say 5 minutes. I will stop video and audio. Enjoy your break. Thank you for your attention so far, and see you in a while, in a bit. Okay, bye. See you soon. Here we go. Welcome back. What time is it? 14. So are you there? Did you enjoy your break? Do you need more time? Should we go ahead?
Yes, we are back.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. Yes, sir. Perfect. I wasn't able to finish my coffee, so I took it with me. So let's go through the second part. Let's go through the second part of our journey, our today's journey. And let's say that today we are discussing about really probably the two most important and core topic human resource management related, which is strategic human resource management and the understanding of where we can say that we are doing strategic human resource management, which is where we are fulfilling and helping the organization in order to achieve its business goals and satisfying the business needs. And the second topic of today is human resource planning or workforce planning. We will refer to this topic in both ways, which are synonymous, human resource planning and workforce planning, which is probably a more practical way. And the aim and objectives of this session, this second part, is to understand human resource planning in an organization. And this required the understanding the business factor, human resource requirements, and develop a human resource plan. This will be covered in the last part. As we did earlier, I would like to be a bit provocative and introduce this this topic, this very crucial topic, with another video. Probably for you, we had no time to introduce ourselves a bit better. We will have probably during the next session, I hope. I don't know where you are based. I'm in London. Probably the next for who is based in the UK or as a kind of interest of the UK dynamics. Probably this video will be kind of familiar, and I would like to invite you to a reflection on this video, which to me is useful to synthesize and summarize the importance, the relevance, the critical relevance of human resource planning or workforce planning, which is considerable omnicomprehensive probably activity. I can't imagine which activity, human resource management activity are not interested or encompassed in when we carry out human resource management, human resource planning or workforce planning. So I would like you to watch this video, which I think will be automatically shown since it's a YouTube video, in order to understand the relevance of this human resource managerial function and where a failure in human resource planning can lead to. This is a very delicate and challenging, probably the most challenging activity you can face with in your human resource management career. Let's watch this video.
with only days to go before the opening ceremony of the 2012 Olympic Games, the security firm G4S has been replaced by local security companies to police a soccer venue in Newcastle at St. James's Park. Well, Alicia Sperry is here to update us. Alicia, okay, first of all, there's been some news this morning, though, before we get to the Newcastle story, that 1,200 troops are now being deployed. Now, they were on standby, but the government has decided they need them.
That's right. The government just announced today that 1,200 additional troops will be deployed to secure the Games. That's in addition to the 3,500 they deployed 2 weeks ago after the problems with G4S surfaced. And that will bring a total military deployment to the Olympics to over 18,000 troops.
I mean, because initially there were like 17,000.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, so it's already, I mean, okay, fine. But as far as the security firms, it was, I mean, G4S was put in place to essentially complement, obviously, the amount of troops there. But they've not been able to supply the enough security for the Olympics. And now forces have been forced to step in.
Yeah, I mean, G4S had a contract for £284 million with the organizing committee for the Olympics. They were supposed to provide 10,400 guards for the Games, and just about 2 weeks ago, they announced they wouldn't be able to meet that requirement, and they only had about 4,000 troops at that point.
What was the problem there?
There were a number of problems. They mentioned issues with vetting and accrediting all the security staff, and then also training. And in fact, when they first announced the problems, a lot of former staffers sort of complained about organizations at the firm. They described a fairly chaotic situation where, you know, there were missing uniforms, there were canceled training sessions, people being sent somebody else's schedule, all kinds of.
So now in the latest development, they're basically, you know, they're not going to actually be able to cover the security for the soccer venues in Newcastle. I mean, about how many guards are we talking about there?
There are about 500 guards that will now be provided entirely by local security firms. The Newcastle City Council announced yesterday they're quite happy about this, in fact, because this will bring in some extra cash to the local economy. The guards that will be securing the Olympic Stadium there are already familiar with that venue, which they secure during other events. And so overall, they're quite positive about this, although this, of course, is just the latest in a series of embarrassments for G4S.
It's bad news for G4S, but at the same time, good news for Newcastle, because I assume the money that would have gone to G4S for all this now actually goes to local security firms.
That's right, and they're quite happy about it. In fact, this is also, and just to remind, you know, G4S has announced they will be losing 35 to 50 million pounds under contract, and that's just the latest. And
just goes to show, I guess they weren't prepared well in advance. Alicia, thank you very much for joining us.
Okay, here we go. I think this. I think that this video shows quite well what that means. Mess up with workforce planning. So we have a company, one of the largest. I think this is one of the largest company worldwide. Kind of. Don't know, 500,000 employees. Is it probably, if I'm not wrong, the third company for number of employees? They got a 284 million contract to provide security for the Olympics game in 2012 here in London. And if I'm not wrong, they expected to earn a net 10% profit out of it. They mistake in workforce planning announced, their failure in workforce planning announced simply kind of couple of weeks before the starting of the Olympic Games, led the company to a loss of 80 million pounds. Following a trial, following everything else. To understand the scale of this loss, this company makes a profit made a profit the previous year of net profit 50 million pounds. So they thrown away more than 1.5 year of profit for that mistake. And they share dropped off immediately a few days after, kind of 15%, a huge loss. I think this shows two important things. First of all, we're talking about a company extremely structured. We are not talking about, a Parve new company just arrived on the market company. This is an impressive company, and as you can see, they fail in their workforce planning, and this also shows, as I mentioned, the importance and how delicate workforce planning is, which is essentially is a HR process aimed to align the changing organization needs and people strategy by matching labor supply, which is skills of company, with the organizational demand, namely number of staff needed. We can summarize what workforce planning is. So we will go through this topic, understanding how do we organize for our workforce planning, what workforce planning encompasses in terms of human resource management activity, and what is a workforce planning in terms of series of activity. The activity carried out during a workforce planning or human resource planning, you can refer in either way in talking about this topic, is analyzing the current workforce. In workforce planning, we identify the future workforce need. We get the right number of staff with the needed skills in the right place and time. We optimize labor costs and identify the right contracts to achieve both organizations' short and long-term objectives. So these are the this is a synthesis of the activities in a workforce planning in terms of what they are aimed to. This is what we want to achieve with the activities we implement during our workforce planning. We may ask ourselves when workforce planning is needed and or what does trigger it? Is a workforce planning something that occurs like a census once every 10 years, or every day, or during which time scale? So let's start saying that workforce planning can be triggered, can be also triggered by particular events. That may be mergers, acquisitions, for instance, or introduction of new technology, economic changes, technological change, demographic change, social changes. All these factors can trigger a workforce planning, a need of change, in quality or quantity, the human resource supply, the pipeline, or the approach to the acquisition of human resource to provide the organization with the needed resource to pursue its goal and objective. Therefore, workforce planning may be caused by all these events. However, we have to keep in mind that human resource planning or workforce planning is fundamental for any organization at any given time. So regardless the triggering event that they may push to quite of immediate intervention or changing the approach in workforce planning or implementing new idea and solution. Human resource planning is something that is always part of activity of human resource department. And this requires an approach, and this requires to categorize workforce planning. We should take in consideration that these factors, highlighted factors like technological changes, demographic changes, social changes, they constantly influence resource management with the organization. And these factors bring with them concerns like skills shortages, for instance, talent attraction competition. All these issues determine that workforce planning is a critical activity for the sustainability of any business. And sorry, through workforce planning, we want to achieve the following objectives: optimizing labor costs, workforce deployment and flexibility, identify and react to changing in customer needs, demand, identify strategy for people development, and target and of course sorting out inadequacy, gaps. The gaps side of human resource planning is a crucial one. We want improve talent retention or productivity and quality of output of the organization. This is the last but not least aspect that we want to highlight, and this recalls what we said earlier in terms of strategic human resource management. Do you remember what we said? We said earlier that the current approach in human resource management is a multi-layered approach, is a multi-stakeholders approach. Therefore, this aim of human resource management, workforce planning, constituted by increasing employees' work-life balance, is the last, but we would probably put it first. We mentioned briefly earlier that human resource planning or workforce planning is considerable an omni-comprehensive activity, probably the widest activity in human resource, is the broadest activity in human resource management, which encompasses a quite large and not rigid lists of human resource management and functions, and not only human resource management functions. Organizational design, organizational development, work-life balance initiative, for instance, flexible working, recruitment and selection, retention and succession planning, talent management, job design, career planning, learning and development, and of course, training need analysis, reward management. This is a sample of activities included in a workforce planning. This is what you will concretely do within an organization once defined the strategic human resource management informing your workforce planning. So as you can see, is a very, very, very challenging activity, and is a core activity of any human resource management department, which requires an approach, which requires not only an approach, but as we will see soon, a mindset and requirements in order to deal effectively with this task. Like the strategic human resource management, I would like to ask you again the same question. Is any workforce planning strategy considerable strategic? Like human resource management, we said, and I think highlighted with evidence, that human resource management activity are not always strategic. Neither when companies say that they are implementing human resource strategy. In order to be strategic, they must offer a relevant, significant contribution to the achievement of business goals. Otherwise, we are not talking about strategic initiatives. We are talking about business, managing business as usual. We are talking about daily routine. We are talking about contingency related HR initiatives. Therefore, workforce planning or human resource planning, alike strategic human resource management, is not always strategic. And we can classify workforce planning in two broad categories: strategic workforce planning and operational workforce planning. Strategic workforce planning is a holistic approach which is aimed to guarantee alignment, toward a given business strategy. And essentially, this occurs by analyzing the internal drivers and objectives and the external environmental factors that impact upon the business. Let's give another definition, something that would help us in order to better identify, more concretely identify where we are talking about strategic workforce planning and when we are talking about operational workforce planning. The time frame length may give us an idea of which workforce planning we are talking about. Usually, strategic workforce planning encompasses a period of between 3 and 5 year horizon. So it's not something, related to the daily routine. Whilst operational workforce planning operates on a shorter projection horizon, usually between 3 to 12 months, and it can be renewed, of course. Operational workforce planning mainly focuses on identification of skill gaps, numbers of staff required to fulfill short-term needs. For instance, people resigning, people are fired, something contingent occurs. We are talking about managing business as usual when we talk about operational workforce planning, something different from strategic human resource planning. Operational workforce planning typically involves process like recruitment, training, and human resource function that are implemented to address daily routine-related issues. One of the requirements of your module, strategic human resource management, is to be able to carry out a workforce planning. And also, we will briefly outline the assignment content, which recall this task. You will be called to provide a board of directors of a relevant company with a report. So, how to carry out a workforce planning? And recalling that workforce planning is a process aimed to allow an organization to successfully execute the business strategy and achieve its mission and objectives. Therefore, workforce planning involves, first of all, the analysis of current workforce, forecasting future needs related to the workforce of the organization, identifying the gaps between the workforce you have available and the organizational future needs. So the workforce you will need in future to fulfill the organizational needs and pursuing its objective. It is therefore useful to divide the workforce planning in steps. And the suggested steps are not universally, we are not talking about best practice. We don't forget, otherwise we contradict ourselves. We believe in effectiveness and usefulness of best practice, but we don't totally support that best practices by themselves are able to address any issue, because there are contingency factors, uniqueness of company organization, and this is proven. The fact that best fit is relevant and best practice is not the solution in strategic human resource management approach is simply proven by the fact that successful company, they implement sometimes totally different approaches in human resource management, ranging from the extreme example shown earlier of Octopus, the company of Mr. Greg Jackson, which does not implement at all officially and formally human resource management department. Nevertheless, is one of the most successful energy company in the UK. So as we can see, no one size fits all, and best practice and best fit mode rather than representing alternative, if we are able to merge them, to use them all together, probably possibly our initiative will result in more effective outcomes. So coming back to our workforce planning and our challenge, we will try to divide the workforce planning in steps, and reminding that there is no rigid scheme to follow, and any activity may overlap each other. So even in terms of timing, even in terms of chronological aspects, is not established that an activity, the following suggested activity, must be followed that simple and rigid sequence. So let's go through what in practice means arrange for workforce planning. First of all, before we identify the steps to build our workforce planning, which once again, I would like to highlight the fundamental importance in your job. I don't know if you are already human resource manager, practitioners, or student, you want to approach, you want to build your career in human resource management, but this is by far one of the most important fundamental important human resource management activities, and this summarizes the existence and the needs within the business value chain activity of human resource management. This is the synthesis, essentially, workforce planning and human resource management, human resource planning, sorry. So how do we organize, and how workforce planning is organized? How do we approach workforce planning? So let's say that at very strategic level, the workforce agenda is defined, is outlined somehow from senior or executives. So we have a board, members of the board of directors, executive directors, of course, and HR directors that essentially they outline the approach in workforce planning. But what is required to organize a effective workforce planning is also involvement of relevant stakeholders. We don't forget that there are other figures. Stakeholders should be the keyword that we should remember in approaching our future human resource management activity, and multi-stakeholders approach. So we can confidently say that the involvement of stakeholders, relevant stakeholders, make the difference in organizing our workforce planning. For instance, in formulating a workforce planning and favoring its execution, let's imagine the relevant functions recalled by our workforce planning. frontline managers, for instance, that they will be called to implement our workforce planning? What if ignore the instances? What if we ignore financial instances of workforce composition deriving from our workforce planning? We probably, if not surely happens, what happens to 70% of business strategy, which means they are excellently, brilliantly formulated, but they fail when they are executed. So what studies suggest and practice suggests in 2021, after many failures in implementation of strategy, generally speaking, and human resource management strategy, specifically speaking, is the involvement of relevant stakeholders. This is a key point and pre-requirement in organizing our workforce planning. Then the arrangement or pre-arrangement, let's say the backstage or the background of our workforce planning, is how this configuration takes place. This will vary, especially according to size and nature of company, sector, industry. This practice must be also considered as part of the organizational work planning itself. What does this mean? In large organization, for instance, commonly planning is delegated to operational employees at local unit level, for instance, and this would depend from the size of the organization. So once again, we are still recalling the best fit approach and understanding our organization and addressing the needs and looking at inside, like the resource-based approach suggests. Organizing for workforce planning requires skill set, mindset, and data. Yasser, as you can see, we we get back to what we discussed earlier, and I promised you would ever be topic of the next, crucial during the next topic, data and human resource analytics. So, what skill set and mindset and data means in arranging, organizing for workforce planning? It means that when we approach this delicate and very complex task and crucial task for the sustainability of the business, we need a pre-requirement to approach this effectively. We cannot embark in this like a jump into the dark. Unless we don't want to go risk adverse, negative adverse consequences. Therefore, in dealing with workforce planning, we need, for instance, knowledge. First of all, understanding the internal information, external environment, our labor market, our business, how our business is configured in terms of its structures, its systems, its strategy, analytical skill. We don't forget that the concept of strategic human resource management is intrinsically and characteristically embedded in the concept of analysis, data, and the strategy resulting from them. So we need analytical skills, we need data collection ability and capabilities to give the basis for our workforce planning to go ahead. Problem solving, communication, these are all skills needed. We need a mindset. We said that sometimes, often, workforce planning are triggered by event, but we need to take in consideration that habits of analytical thinking and our mindset must be a constant, because we are always in workforce planning activity. We are always engaged in workforce planning activity, whether it is operational or strategical one. And data and HR analytics. So this is critical, and we need to demonstrate. We need to base our decision on data. We need to be substantially and systematically evidence proved. So let's go through workforce planning step. The identified step are 6 steps. Understanding the organization and its environment. Analyze the current and potential workforce. Identify future workforce need. Identify gaps against future needs. This is a very, very crucial point. Actions to deal with shortage, surpluses, or skills discrepancy. And monitoring actions and evaluations. So step 1. The step 1 in our workforce planning would be understanding our organization. We should understand the external environment, like we should understand the labor markets, and we should understand the company's operating model. So the internal environment, it's critical to have an understanding, a clear understanding of the environmental factors that affect the organizations. We will discuss in the next days of effective tools that we can use in to inform our decision, which, for instance, I give for granted. I'm sure that you all have already heard about PESTEL model, for instance. These are instrument tools of analysis. These are frameworks in order to identify concerns and how to react to them, concerns deriving from the external environment. A PESTEL model, as you probably already know, takes in consideration 6 key environmental concerns: political, economical, technological, sociological, legal, environmental. Of course, best fit, once again, we can personalize, we can customize our PESTEL model. We can add other concerns, like, for instance, ethical concern. Understanding labor market. This is another crucial, very crucial aspect in the workforce planning. And we need to take in consideration that labor market is divided in 2 domains, which is the internal labor market and the external labor market. Whilst the internal labor market, we need understanding of deep understanding of both. Understanding the internal labor market lead you to gather data and formulate a question like, how long our employees travel to reach the workplace, for instance, and what people were doing before joining the organization, or where did they go when they left. Information like this: are we losing talent because they are attracted by a competitor, or even a competitor in another industry sector? For instance, our talent in manufacturing leaving our organization because of the growth, like today is happening in the UK, in London, especially, of financial company and big tech company. Are they attracting and absorbing our talent? How can we counterfeit this phenomenon? The external labor market, instead, is aimed to understanding the scope of our activity in addressing needs of resourcing. And this will lead us to questions like our concerns, local, national, or even international labor market related. For instance, we are dealing in the UK with Brexit. Organization, if I'm not wrong, the ONS, Office for National Statistics, said recently that an estimation by the fact suggests that 700,000 Europeans workers already left the UK. So now we don't see this because we are under lockdown, but how this will reflect when the economy will pick up? These are all questions deriving from the external labor market that you will deal with. Don't forget, this is extremely relevant also for your coursework. You will be asked to address this point, and we will devolve one session, the third one, walking through the assignment requirement. And for sure, this topic will be back, and we will stress this topic out. How do we recruit people under the lens of the external social labor market dynamics? Third, understanding the company's operating model. You need to understand how your company does work, how your company makes money, how your company configure its role, skill, structure, and system, processes, and everything in the between. So first step, understanding your understanding your organization and its environment. Second step is analyze the current and potential workforce. So in order to do so, you may implement a workforce segmentation and workforce assessment through HR analytics. Once again, yes, as you see, can you see how many times human resource analytics comes out? So if you segment your workforce, you will have a quick view understanding of the current and potential workforce. Segmenting your workforce, for instance, it may occur through, let's say, classifying them by job families, functions, competencies, organization, or you can segment them according to value or task performed. And this will depend, recalling what we said earlier, for the interest of key stakeholders. Imagine that your workforce planning is extremely subject to a strict budget. At that point, segmentation by role according to value may be the most important factor. Imagine a context in which you are asked to respect a strict budget and you show up with a segmentation for that highlight simply tasks or competencies, leading to difficulty in understanding how much will cost that workforce configuration. And this will conflict with your key stakeholders of the financial department. And as you can see, that's the clash. And this is where human resource management strategy falls short, when we don't take in consideration our stakeholders and key stakeholders' interests and concerns. So the third step, identify future workforce needs. This is very, very interesting and challenging. Which methods are available for future workforce estimation? Let's see how we can do it. We have to translate the strategy into what is concretely required in terms of future workforce. And this means, you may remember this bit, the 5 right principle. This is very common in human resource management, which is HR planning is about the right people with the right skills in the right roles and the right time and the right cost. So the 5 rights, this is the summary of human resource planning. You can go through these 5 rights one by one, and this will suggest you things like right sides, number of, the right sides, number of employee needed, right shape, which structure, administrative and management ratio are appropriate, right location, availability of people within the relevant location, right skills, the skills gaps and the capabilities required, right cost, employee cost structure, and recruitment and development cost. Which methods can we adopt in carry out this third step, which is identify future needs? workforce needs. We can simply ask, for instance, we can ask directly to manager, director of department. We can use budget constraints using employee cost ration, like we said earlier. We can use benchmarking, for instance, relating our workforce identification of workforce need based on internal or external references. We can do it identifying trends, for instance, to identify future needs. Let's say, is there out there a new technology that we determine a radical change, or is our organization, for instance, imagine that there is a predicted change in productivity or demand. We may have 3 examples of approaches for workforce estimation, which is the scenario planning, the the contingency planning, and the adaptive planning. So the scenario planning is commonly used in a highly in fast-paced environment. For instance, petrol company like Shell, they adopt this kind of scenario. So what they do, prediction, there is a said prediction, the most difficult thing is to make prediction, especially if about predict the future. The scenario planning would help you to identify 3 or 2, 3, 4 mainly likelihood scenarios, and addressing your initiative according not to one scenario, but the prediction of the most likely scenarios. At this point, you will have the opportunity to make your HR planning flexible enough to deal with the most predictable situation. So instead of betting only on one scenario that if it fails, your trade-offs will create a strong damage to your organization. So you will outline, according to using data and analytics, what may be the next most likely scenarios, and you identify your future needs based on the different scenarios, not only one. The contingency planning is something totally related to the previous one, and they can be coupled, and it assesses the nature and the extent of the risks. So once you identify the scenario, you measure which scenario brings with it the highest risks, and once again, your future workforce needs, we try to address the highest and the less acceptable risks of the identified scenario. The adaptive planning, the third method or better approach in workforce estimation, this is intrinsically should characterize your HR planning, which is in the fast-paced world of business, plan must be adaptable to change. So this approach allows organization to implement quickly the changes. This will require you to accept that not all the initiatives you will implement will prove be successful. Identifying gaps against the future needs. This is the 4th step. Once you identify the internal context and impact of external factors, you need to identify what the gaps are between your current workforce and your future needs. These gaps may be of different nature, and they may be of numerical or skill-related nature, or hidden behind other cause of gaps, like the structure, the position, the geographic position of your workforce. This identification will lead you and will be related you to concerns about what these gaps represent. Business as usual activity, succession retention, for instance, need of relocation or even outsourcing. So the identification of gaps is a fundamental activity in order to act accordingly and implement the action required. After this, we get into the actions to deal with shortages, surpluses, or skill discrepancies, which is everything we have identified in our gap analysis. So how do we approach the actions and how we identify the needed actions? Identify the critical gaps, define potential actions, and attribute priority to identified actions. These are three steps, crucial steps in defining the actions that we identify to deal with our future workforce needs. In conclusion of the activity, we have to address, and we have to formulate recommendation to address gaps in order to their nature. So they may be functional gaps, numerical gaps, and talent gaps. According to the identified nature of the gaps we are dealing with, specific human resource management activity will be implemented. For instance, for functional gaps, recruitment, training, job design, reward management. And this will lead to, it means that we have to reskill people or skilling people for cross-functional roles, like to gain flexibility in our workforce configuration, job rotation, for instance. If we are dealing with numerical gaps, employment contracts, making use of appropriate employment contracts, like for increasing flexibility, for instance, gig economy, outsourcing, zero-hour contract. Talent gaps, career and development, educational path, promoting continuing professional development or personal development plan, knowledge sharing, secondments, project, apprenticeship. So as you can see, this must be translated. The relevance of identification of gaps and their nature is because only through this you will define which human resource management activity is needed to address that gap. Step number 6 is monitoring actions and evaluation. We said that, especially if we are dealing with human resource management planning, this will pretty long initiatives, and we cannot wait for 5 years to understand where we are, where we are and which results our initiative achieved. Especially because in the fast-paced business environment, in the today's fast-paced business environment, things change in a while. So we have to monitoring first of all, concrete implementation of the actions that we have planned earlier. Are we doing exactly what we deliberated? And if not, why not? The relevance of the deliberated change. As mentioned earlier, we have a plan, but things change. Our environment, competitors, and situation, political factors, social factors, and everything else. So we have to always compare and assess the relevance of our deliberated change and action in workforce composition with the relevant external and internal factor, because they may lose of actuality and current relevance during the time. Reporting and data management, this is of course once again fundamental, and workforce composition and return of investment. Our organization will push us to prove continuously that they are saving money, they are producing better, the absenteeism level is going down, turnover, unwanted turnover is going down, and we have to prove this. The only way is to reporting this through data and monitoring our initiative. And I would say, as a final consideration in HR planning, we don't forget something very important. Ethical concerns and legislation. We have always complied with ethical principle and legislation configuring our HR planning. We cannot hire an entire workforce of 0-hour contract. We cannot hire only men. We cannot implement any minimal discrimination. And this is for reason that should go beyond the legal requirement, and this should inform our ethics. In addition, there are legislation, for instance, in your essays, you will deal with this problem. You have to also prove that your brief is compliant with law, is compliant with, for instance, in the UK, we have a gender pay gap. Organization larger than 250 employees, they have to publish the gender pay gap. We have diversity inclusion, and we have a pressure in the UK to introduce the same arrangement for ethnicity pay gap. Again, diversity inclusion is not only something of ethical interest. Diversity and inclusion increase productivity, because from diversity and from inclusion derive in performance. We will see this in the next lesson, for instance, treating about offset theories and other relevant theories. The psychological contract. We don't forget that not only what is written in a contract must be fulfilled, but also not written clauses. The employment contract is made up by written and unwritten clauses, and unwritten clauses sometimes are the more challenging one. So we have to fulfill the expectation of our employees, and we have to put them in the middle as among always our key stakeholders in drawing any kind of human resource management initiatives. And ethical issue. So these are the final consideration. We are 10 minutes above the threshold, but I hope you may forgive me for this delay due also to technical issue occurred in the very beginning. So your assignment, very briefly, since we will treat your assignment carefully, and we will walk through it at during the third class on Friday, next Friday. So this is a 4,500 words report, very, very good. There is space to write, there is space to put inside very brilliant idea. And we will make this an occasion to get the highest possible mark, and especially regardless the mark you get, to learn and to implement what you have learned in your future human resource management career. You will be a recently appointed human resource manager of one of the mentioned company, but you can also ask your tutor to approve one of company you are familiar to in order to release this briefing that will be made up of two parts, part A and part B. We will discuss the element of these two parts in detail during the third class of this cycle. Would say just a little suggestion so you can prepare for this assignment. Annual report. Public company, especially public company, I see among these probably I don't know, but company, they publish annual report, and the annual report is a huge, very large, impressive source of information from which you can understand things like culture, objectives, future objectives. It really is a sort of Bible of understanding. And I would suggest you to have a look at the annual report of the company you have picked up in order to carry out your assignment. So I think we can stop sharing. Are you there? Are you okay? Sorry for this delay. Once again, I would like to ask you if you have some question, if there is something you want to ask me. And first of all, let me thank you for your attention and to have spent these 2 hours with me that I found very, very engaging, and I'm honored to have spent these hours with you. So Ursula, Shreya, yes, sir, sharing. Any question, I'm willing to answer. Yes, sir.
First of all, thank you very much for the time. It's always a pleasure to be with you, Sergio.
Thank to you. Yes, I remember you from the previous session, webinar.
Exactly.
Thank you very much.
I enjoyed it.
It's my pleasure.
Yes, I've enjoyed this so much. Basically, I don't currently work in HR. I work as an operational manager, but great. I have been involved in human resource gap analysis.
Definitely.
I have been. I can see a niche, you know, in human resource, especially human resource analytics. What would I need? You don't need to answer now. Maybe in future you can give me some advice. What do I need to be an HR analytic? You know, I can see there's a gap in the market for it. Somebody who can do that, you know.
Yeah, you got a useful to the market. Currently, I think a human resource analytics position as skyrocket in the labor market. There is a strong request of people with these skills, and of course, you know, a background in human resource management. I see it's difficult to be a human resource analytics if you don't have background or study in human resource management in general. So I see a bit of a dichotomy in it, but as a specialization or simply as a, you know, approach and understanding, considering that many companies, Yasser, due to the shortage of skills, and we go back to the HR planning, they will be forced to train and develop internally the human resource manager, human resource employee, and you know, in the human resource capabilities employee, to enrich them of these skills. So even your company, for instance, if you progress in career, and this is something that you can put on the table, and the company should be really interested in it, in developing this skill, for instance, which will be a complementary and very good things to do on top of what you are already achieving, which I believe should be a level 7 diploma in human resource management, probably, which is a very high standards of education in human resource management. So we can discuss of human resource analytics, and I think this topic probably will even be discussed, probably, not sure, in the next class.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're the most welcome. Shreya, Sharing, Ursula, I didn't hear from you. So if you have any question or kind of information or things you may require, please take advantage of this moment. I was wondering, maybe not now, because I don't think I have already the link, but if you want and you find it useful, I may share with you the material of this class maybe next time. So please let me know.
That would be wonderful.
That would be a great help.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Okay, I found a way to provoke your reaction and hear your voice. Great. Okay. Okay, so I give you two beautiful and good news. The first one, I will share with you the contents we discuss. The three great important news. I will share the contents we discussed. Second, I will also include the notes of the discussion. So you will not have, because usually when we share the slides, you only see the headlines, but you need the notes of the trainer or the teacher in order to go through it. So I will share with you the notes, or they may be not grammatically perfect, but they will be I think important bit to understand the content. So I will also share the notes with you. Please, I do apologize, accept my apologies if the grammar will be not very excellent.
That's fine.
If you find some typos, just forgive me. The third great thing is that I will do this for free. So this is
that would be nice.
This is the most important thing. I won't charge you, despite I do as a HR consultant when I deliver consultancy. So that's it. Next time I will put in my agenda and I will upload on my OneDrive the contents, and I will share with you. And I'm still working on the preparation of the next content for Wednesday. I really hope to see you again throughout these classes. It's my pleasure to meet you again. Therefore, I hope I invite you to follow the three classes cycle of this very, very I don't know how to describe these topics. I don't know how to describe strategic human resource management. Is really something so compelling, so engaging, so important. And once again, my approach, I hope you agree, probably things I explained or I discussed with you are things that you already know, and things at a very basic level, like how to contextualize human resource management. But I'll never give this for granted. I think if we understand the big picture, we will be able to understand the details of the matter. But if we dive directly in the detail, like happened to me, for instance, during some classes of my studies, my master's, I had the pleasure of studying many topics. I did a Master of Science in Law, a Master of Art in Human Resource Management, and study of MBA. So there is nothing more affecting than when something is given for granted, and even if we are discussing at master level, jumping directly into the detail, I don't think this gives this prompt a good approach. I hope you agree.
Yes.
So I think now I have let you go, since we are I owe you 20 minutes of your time, and I'm so grateful to you to having gave me your precious time. I wish you to enjoy good rest of the day. I don't know where you are located. I'm in London. I'm half mile from the Observatory of Greenwich.
Okay.
And I also would like
I'm based in Birmingham.
Oh, great. Yes, great.
Yeah,
Birmingham, I call Birmingham the second London of the UK, because Birmingham is growing so incredibly fast. Plus now with the H2, despite the criticism, we will be much more closer. Now, I think with Virgin, from Houston, is one and a half hour.
Yes.
Yeah. Imagine. We are talking about really. I may probably take less to come to Birmingham than going to Central London.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great, yes. And
thank you very much.
Thank to you. See you soon.
Thank you very much.
And have a good day.
And you too. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for the session. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.